Hello, hi all. How are we today? Happy Wednesday. Made it. Yes. We're so excited that you're here. Howdy, howdy, hello. How's everyone's read or reread of Will of the Empress coming? Not this week, but next week we're going to talk about it. Oh, the hand. How's the hand been? It's been really healing. Today I got the stitches out and learned that there's a whole nother phase of the healing process I have to go through. So I have at least another week with my splint on, and then we're going to reassess after that. But it seems like I'm going to retain all of my fine motor control and everything. The big question is whether or not I'm going to keep feeling in there. I have not a lot, but it seems like there's a little bit of nerve damage that might just heal itself. So that's what we're going to do. Hello, welcome. I'm so happy everyone's here. We're doing languages and culture today. And then Will of the Empress. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy you're here. Will of the Empress next week. And so, not this week. I'm so glad you're alive. I'm so glad you're alive. And glad that you're here. This is going to be, I hope it's going to be a fun discussion this week. Language, culture. There's been so much of that in Circle of Magic. And then, of course, throughout all of Tortall as well. And so I'm excited about language and culture. I am trying a new thing to make sure that the people who join on YouTube, because it seems like there are people who are joining on YouTube for our book group, would love some more context, so I'm trying to figure out how to make sure the comments are a part of it. Slow on the technology, but picking it up. And so I'm screen recording as well as having the TikTok lives. And so if you don't want your comment or anything or name to show up on YouTube at all later, please use the Discord chat that we have for it. And none of that information will end up on there. But I realize that I'm not doing as good of a job at reading out comments. And there have been a couple of people on YouTube who have reached out to say, hey, can you post the whole live with what people have also written in the comments as well? And, but I also wanted to make sure that people are able to completely maintain their privacy if needed. And so join the Discord server, and put your comments in there if you do not want them on, YouTube for this, because it's wild to me that people are joining our book clubs later on and listening to it, and hello to all of them. So I'm so stoked that people are here. I hope we've had a good week. I'm alive. Hello, Katie. I hope everyone's doing well too. I'm stoked. I'm excited to talk about language and culture in Tamora Pierce's works. I have a couple of ideas and a couple of themes I would love to bring up, but if you have something that you want to talk about that's in the realm of Tamora Pierce and the language and culture in her books, please drop it in the chat. I absolutely love it. And thank you for all the love. I love being here. Wednesdays, this is my favorite part of this. I have not gotten past the first 15 pages yet. Hasn't happened yet. I need to psych myself up for it. You have pizza, really good pizza, and an alcoholic beverage in your belly, so you are so good to go. Fantastic. I will say the same over here. I am working on my own beverage, and I had a little bit of cold pizza earlier. So I hope we're all hanging down. Hello, welcome. You're starting your read tomorrow, too. Oh, that's going to be great. Those first 15 pages of Will of the Empress are a doozy. I feels like Tamora Pierce was like, here, I'll give you everything that you wanted. You just didn't specify how you wanted it. And no, I'm eating all of my words and wants. Hey, Katie, it is a pizza kind of night. So much so. I'm so stoked for it. I know so many people have said that this is their favorite book, and after those first 15 pages, I don't know how, but I'm going to trust and put a bunch of faith. Hello. I'm going to trust and put a bunch of faith in all of you that this book hits that satisfying nerve that we love in Tamora Pierce's other books, because so many people have said that this book is one of their favorites. So I'm excited to read it. I just, I needed a break after that. It was a rough start, But I'm excited to be back. Excited to have everybody. Love Sandry. I love all of the characters. This has really been a fun one. I've enjoyed making more content about them now that we're a little bit further along in it. Oh, brick oven pizza. Delightful. Mine was cold leftover pizza, so you definitely have me there. So happy everyone's joining. If this is your first time in book club, we are alternating between reading a full, discussing a full Tamora Pierce book in chronological order for Circle of Magic, and we're alternating between doing that on book clubs and then doing a thing like today where we're going to talk about language and culture. And so I have some questions, some ideas, different things that we can talk about when it comes to Tamora Pierce and language and culture. But as always, this is a fantastic space. If you have something that you've been thinking about and would love to have us talk about, please drop it in the chat. Let us know. And so one of my first just icebreaker questions. I hate the idea of icebreakers, but thank you. I love the idea of what culture, besides the main dominant cultures that we're part of in Tortall, what cultures in these series really spoke to you, or that you saw some of your traditions reflected in, or if there were traditions that came out from this writing that you were like, oh, I would love to know more about that. Because I'm so stoked. There were so many for me, and I think Circle of Magic really just expanded further. So I would love to know what your favorites were. I really love learning about the Vizier early on, and I know that there's a lot of discourse around her representation there. For me, it was an introduction, and I think it just kept expanding. It's for sure fascinating overall. Yes. You have tons of leftover pizza. Fantastic. Ugh, it's a good pizza time. Good pizza time. I really enjoyed learning, which one was it? Oh, Coldfire. I thought this was a really interesting, I thought one of my favorite pieces about the culture and language in Tamora Pierce's works are how our main character, our narrators, navigate a different culture than the one that they're from. And so having Daja, whose main focus was fire, in an area that is so influenced by ice was a brilliant decision. Let's see. Oh, you love the Yamani culture? I do too. I think there were so many pieces that came out of that. I know I certainly still think about the fans. We all still talk about the Yamani stone face and Kel's internal monologues that she has. It seemed like there was such a direct influence on her culture, on her own personal experience with that culture. I loved it. You want to know more about the Shang, especially their women as they go out into the world. I completely agree with you. I would love to have more from the Shang. I really liked the short story that was done in Tortall and Other Lands. I think it was called Ostrich, perhaps, and about a young woman who mimics what she sees other animals do and learns how to fight that way. It's a phenomenal short story. So if you haven't read it, there is a little bit of Shang culture and more to that backstory a little bit. So I highly recommend if you haven't quite read it yet. In the Tortall verse, you found it really interesting that common is so well common. I completely agree with you. That idea of just a common tongue was a brilliant writing tactic. And I think it also really helped with some of the cultural foundation, that there were ways to find and interact with people of other culture across the realm. So I completely agree with you. You're Irish. You don't have a lot of representation in Tortall. But on us, all of the culture is fire. Yes, it's so good. So good. Let's see. I love these comments. Keep them coming on. I'm catching up on these. Yamani culture. It'd be so hard for you to be part of it because you're such an emotional person, but it's so amazing and different. Katie, I completely agree with you. I agree that would just be... I would need to be there as an observer, an outsider. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Amers. I would need to be there as like an outsider, a third world kid, the diplomat's daughter. I love it. The diplomat's daughter really added a layer to it that allowed Kel to exist in this in-between space that I think gave Tamora Pierce more opportunities to critique the Tortallian culture as well as introduce a new culture to us. You would love to know more about the history of that. Like, is that how English spread? I completely agree. I have no idea. I think that would be a brilliant idea. Okay, I'm going to drop a little bit of lore about language and the spread of language on everyone right now, so please bear with me. I lived in Kenya for a little while, and while I was there, I was working, studying, going to school, and conducting research. And so my research project was around Kenyan Sign Language, which was not an official recognized sign language at the time. They were still creating it. And so what I did was I looked at how sign languages are formed in these different, in Nairobi in particular. And what I found was that before school, before children were 5, they would really create their own sign language and then bring that into the school system where they would learn sometimes American Sign Language, sometimes British Sign Language, sometimes really a mixture of it all. And so then their own home signs would get incorporated into the signs that they were learning, depending on who was teaching. And then from there, you could track a lot of the sign language through the matatu routes, like the bus routes that they have there, and it would radiate out from certain places. And so the idea of language spreading through Tortall really makes me think of that research and about how there's this mixture of necessity and an educational system and culture and just travel of how people move too, and something that I think would also be a part of Tortall is their war history. So where are they going? What kind of wars have they had in the past? Where are they conquering? And we see, that's one of the reasons I love Tamora Pierce, is we see changes on the map too over the time. Let's see, you would love to discuss lying with Tammy's worlds. You found yourself lying to call out of work this week and thought about how Kel would be disappointed for the lie. Does lying equal villainy in Tammy's worlds? That's brilliant. That's a brilliant question. Can we think of any lies told by protagonists that wasn't used to protect someone else? That's a really, really, really great question about how language and use of language and intention teaches us about morality. I'm going to catch up on these comments. Let's see. You've been tickled on your reread seeing how obviously the real world equivalent of Yamani. Yes. I think there's another half to that I'm missing. And thank you all for the gifts and fan things. I love it. Thank you. I also don't know. I'm learning. So I appreciate it all. And I love that you're here and engaged. You would love a book focused on the Shang since they can come from any other culture. What does it look like when they're together? Decline. Hello. Sorry, there are people who are trying to join the live, and I'm like, no thanks, friend. I love seeing everybody up here. Okay, nature of understanding. Here's the second half to that. I'm getting it, Kate. You also love that Tammy never forced acceptance of different cultures. That showed the human nature of being afraid of those things. They don't understand and resist to change. That's a brilliant point, and one that I have also thought about I wanted to bring up too, is that cultures are not necessarily represented. There are moments I feel like culture is critiqued, and on occasion, I think that there might need more research, but our protagonists in particular are really curious. They approach things with curiosity, and that's one of my favorite things about them. Let's see. I love this all. Left a long comment on Discord, live conversation board. Fantastic. Thank you. I will get over here. Love it all. Can't think of an answer off the top of your head, but would read a book about any of the cultures. Oh, I completely agree. And any kind of book, too. Like, give me a micro history about the weapons. Or give me, one of the books I really, really want, and I know I've said this a lot, but in my head, it's a book I would love to see written, is the history of lady knights that is given to Kel. About just the lady knights from long, long ago. That's the book I want to see. That'd be fantastic. Sanders, we're so glad that you're here. I hope you have a lovely night. Alana told lies that protected herself, but they didn't hurt anyone else, so... I that idea of lying, it's been percolating. Because I think there are distinguishing types of lies, and so you have these self-preservation lies. You have lies that are less individual to individual, but I really see it as like individual to society, and so Alana is a good example of that. She is eaten alive by the idea that she is betraying her friends and that her friends won't love her. And won't be that friendly with her once they know the truth. But on that grand scale, she has less of that guilt because it's not that one-on-one betrayal sort of thing. So I think that Tamora Pierce is trying to make a point about society as a whole versus the individual in the reflection piece. I'm so happy y'all are here. Thank you all. If you are just joining, we are talking about language and culture in Tamora Pierce's work across all of the works. Still haven't finished out Circle of Magic, but we're getting close. And thank you all. All right, I'm catching up on all of these comments. I love how engaged everyone's here. We're so glad you're here, Reese. Gang, love it. I mean, I've just been floored with how consistently amazing our little community is. Oh, that was adorable. The tiny little dinosaur was adorable. Thank you. So we're talking about the different cultures that we find really interesting. There's also this question around lying and what does the language use and lying use say about morality and value. Hold on, it was very brilliantly worded, so I want to get it right. Does lying equal villainy in Tammy's worlds? Can you think of any lies told by protagonists that wasn't used to protect someone else? And so that's where the conversation is at the minute, and we're bouncing back and forth between the Discord and the chat. And so I'm so happy everyone is here. Let me go to some of my other thoughts. Let's see. Because I agree. One of my big questions that I have, and this is always my question whenever I'm confronted by literally anything, where is the power? Where is the power in these stories? Where is the power in these cultures? Where is the power in the language? I think Tammy uses language to make distinctions between class, culture, races a lot of the times, and I think she understands the power of language to form an in-group and an out-group. We really have been seeing this a lot with Briar, and Winding Star, I would say the Circle of Magic series as a whole, but I think Briar's a really good example of this, of his language that he brings in, and it changes a little bit when he's at Winding Circle, but he can turn it on and off, he can code switch. Same Daja does that a lot too, the trader talk, being with Winding Circle people. I think it's a really... I think Tamora Pierce this is an area where she's a really strong writer. Using the use of language, and particularly her made-up languages that denotes an in-group and out-group, really reinforces culture. It's so essential to so many of the Winding Circle, or the Circle of Magic books. And then I also think it's really, really essential in Becca's books. The whole Provost Guards, the way that they use language in order to know who's in with the dogs and who's not. I've been thinking so much about that. Fantastic. I'm going to catch up with some of these comments. I appreciate these. Yes. I think you all are awesome. Okay. Kryptoff lied and pretended he was Mithras. That's a good example. It's a very good example. And it's from the Trickster. The Trickster as a whole. I think, yeah, there's the protection, that survival. I think lying is used as like an illusion sometimes too. I'm thinking of Numair. And how he would lie a lot by omission, and he would lie through the different illusions that he would cast. So I think that would be another one too. Oh, George's Spymaster. I'm catching up on all these spaces. I appreciate it. George's Spymaster. I'm sure he lied once or twice. But it's okay. We love a Spymaster. So based on him, you would assume that it would be no lying equals villainy. I think there's that portion of it too. You have thoughts on several characters, then realize that they were mostly bad guys. Maybe Miles. I think there's that. I think there's some with Miles, but I think there is a form of protection. I also think there are parts of Miles where he is fine with lying to himself. And even knowing that he's lying to himself, I think he's fine with it. And I think there are some other characters who lie to themselves. And I think Tamora Pierce ends up saying that that's not necessarily morally okay. But I think she also deems it as part of that learning process that you have to go through in order to be yourself. You don't know who you are yet, and so it might not feel like you're lying. Oh, that's a fun one. That one feels like I'm getting ready for Cowboy Carter. Let's catch up on George defines the when you lie in your resume but still get the job. I know, at 17. Right? I think he was 17 when he became the Spymaster. Or the King of Thieves. Numair lives a ton, yes. On the subject of language, you've been having fun in your fanfic with the dialects of Common, specifically who calls their parents Ma and Dad. Brilliant. Oh, I love where this is going. Like Dane does, coming from the border over in Gala, and who calls their parents Mama and Papa, and who switches at some point, yet to be revealed. That's brilliant. It's that attention to detail in the language. I think that really makes that world building. And so that's an interesting, like, I see a spreadsheet of who calls them what. Because it's such a distinguishing language feature. Like, the moment you said dot. But then we also see George on several occasions says da. So I wonder if there's a class piece of it too, and not just location. I love it. My brain is going a million miles a minute. With the history of Lady Knights, you would love a deep dive into why and exactly when they became banned, since we see Sabine in Becca's books. Yes, I want to know what happened. What was that cultural backlash? Like, was there divine intervention? I feel like that's something that the Chamber of the Ordeal would have had some sort of say in. I want to know what happened. What was the Great Schism? What did all of their other history books go away? I don't know. Let's see. Allie, the Great Mother. Yes, we are seeing that in the third book. I'm remembering. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the start of it, but I want to know. I want to know. Yes. The Gentle Mother, that is also what I assumed. I can't wait to get to those books again, because there's parts of me that, like, kind of just those out a little bit, and so it takes being kicked in the noggin to remember them, and that's why I just so appreciate all of you so much. I love that our powers combine. We can do it. Becca turns a major blind eye to Rosto and the Rogue because it serves her, but is that a lie? That's a really good question. That's a really good question that maybe I kind of want to answer that when we read these books. Because I don't know if I have a good answer right now, but I want to, let's do that again when we read those books. I think there was a lot of cross-compatibility with the Spymaster and King of Thieves. Oh, sure, yes. And also nepotism. Like, it was inevitable that he was going to get some sort of something. Class difference, yeah. I think that was in reference to the Ma Pa. And you think it's definitely intention since it's pointed out the lower city would be chaos without the rogue. I agree. I think that George was a good choice for that. Bouncing back over to the Discord. If you are just joining us, we also have the Discord. We have things going on there too. We're talking about language and culture this week. Next week is Will of the Empress. I will make it past the 15 pages, I promise. Okay. The gentle motherhood religion played a part in that. I want that book. That would be an incredible book. One of the things I've thought about since I was very young was the idea of a book of one of the dedicates to one of the goddesses, because I love the divine intervention that happens in all of the Tortall books. I love the imagery of it. I always thought it would be really interesting. The one I fixated on was the protectors of the temple. All of those women were allowed to have axes. And so that was the one that I always wanted when I was younger, like a book about somebody who chose to become a dedicate to the temple, or maybe she didn't choose, what a chosen life close to the gods would look like. Because I think most of our experiences, the protagonists themselves have not chosen the divine intervention. Mastic Book 3, it seemed like a temperance movement that led to prohibition, but there's just rumbling in Becca's books. Yes, and I want more. You want to see more details on how they gained enough influence? Yes, I'm all about that. Gentle Mother cult, you'd be curious about that. And at the time of Becca's books, it didn't seem like a Gentle Mother was big in Chorus yet, more in the other towns. I wonder how that religious movement spread. Are we talking these smaller shrines that just come together? I don't know. Thank you. Let's see. Since Becca and Sabine played such a big role, you would assume that the king wouldn't have banned them unless there were enough political pressure from his nobles. Would the king after that be John's father? I feel like that would track. You forgot how succession works. Totally wouldn't be the prince. Maybe his son. We need a timeline. I think there are hundreds of years between these books and the rest of them. The Spy's Guide to Tortall has a really good timeline, and then there's a really good timeline on Tamora Pierce's website as well that even talks about the discrepancies. And so one of the ones that I think about all of the time is the discrepancy in George's age. Because in these books in Alana's books we're told that he's only a couple of years, he's only 7 years older than her or something, but then the dates in Becca's book would make him 20 years older than her. So if you're looking for a timeline, that's the one I would go for, because it has all the details. Oh, love it. And then in the chat and the Discord was dropped the secession of Tortallian monarchs. So y'all just coming in clutch. I love it. Just finished rereading Kel's stories, and something that this conversation has rattled loose is how a shared opinion about Kel's desire to become a knight brought Jordan and his posse together with the belief that women had no place in battle. It's interesting to see how such different people come together with one common thread, and the same could be said for Kel and her group of friends too. Sorry about that's really brilliant, Kate. That's awesome. I really like there's a foil working there, right, of Kel and Joran, and I think taking that idea and expanding it out not just to the formation of those groups around that common idea, but I think we could even apply that idea of Joran a little bit as a foil to the idea of justice, and Kel's idea of justice, Kel's idea of trust, or I think a huge one is chivalry. What is chivalry? And I think we see some of that in the families too. So Jordan's family is very insular, and Kel's family very global. There's so many. I like that. I like what you've knocked loose. Keep it coming. And Becca is 400 years before Alana. Yes. All right, I'm going to catch up on some of these. I love how active we all are in the chat. This is fantastic. This is what I love. You think it's a common versus nobility things because it's mentioned only Allie calls George Dot. Yes, and I think that Allie aligns herself very naturally with more commoners. It's because he's common, yes. And I think we see the evolution of language too, especially in Becca's books, because we have the diary entries for everyone, and so we even see that George may come from this lineage, but his mom did not really have access to reading and writing as much. Becca is so dogged. I see what you did there. Love it. That she is not too concerned with what the Knights class are doing. Yes. That is one element about her books that I really enjoyed from the start, was this idea that Becca has made her allegiance to the lower city clear from the start, and she doesn't really waver at all from it. Love that. That would be such a fun protagonist to follow. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's in reference to the person, the Dedica, yes. No, she did. She was a priestess. She kept a journal. Okay, yes, she did. She kept a journal. And I think this is a question of whether or not the language had changed so much that the language, how she was writing in the journal, the language has just evolved, or the choice. I was saying that she didn't really learn to read or write as much is because there are a lot of language choices that I think partially denote a change in the language itself and partially denote her class. And I think it's a both and for that. And yeah, she was extremely well educated for a common woman, but I don't think that it put her in the nobility class to the point where they're going to be saying ma and pa. And I think that that's a really good... Let me pull it up. Because this is directly with the language and culture that we're talking about, is this shift. I loved the shift in language, about how everything was written differently. And no, neither was Becca's family. I completely agree. And that's why it's so interesting that I felt like George's mom's was just not written in the same way. And I think we see the map changes, but we also see the language change. And they also do, like, the penmanship change. The style, like, the font choices are very clear, too. And so this is way more cursive-y, fancy, and then hers is like a papyrus. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, it's mentioned that she couldn't read. Got the impression that George's ma was from the merchant family, but not noble, not for money. Yes, and so, like, it goes back to that class of, like, there's definitely a distinction between all of the different classes. You would love to know a few more notable incidents between Becca and Alana. I completely agree. What happened in that gap of time there? Because I really do. I love the way that Tamora Pierce makes it clear that language has changed, the city has changed, this map has changed. It's made, for me, it makes the glossary and the maps that are a part of so many of the books alive and actually a part of the book rather than an appendix. They're essential pieces of this story. You're curious about the First Immortals War. Me too. Where are the scrolls? I need scrolls. I think it would be really interesting to learn more about the first ones. I want some ancient texts. I want to know what happened at Miles's ruins. Just, wouldn't it be great if he stumbled across just a little scroll? Just a little scroll in the basement that's like, oh, here's documenting exactly what happens. Also, what led to Chorus having pigeons? That's a good question. And also, why don't we really hear about the pigeons ever again? I know it's because they were written the other way, but it would have been cool. Yes, what happened to Wardrobe Marsh? Yes. There are so many different pieces, different pockets of world building. I think it tells us so much about the world that Tamora Pierce has built, that they have all of these pieces where I'm like, I want more of that. I want more of that one very specific piece of media or literature. I think there are a lot of opportunities for that. Tortall, of course, is the one I know the best, but I'm also seeing so many opportunities for it in Winding the Circle of Magic series. there are so many things that I'm like, oh, that was just a side comment throwaway. I would love to have a whole story surrounding that. Oh, that's a very good point. Okay. The points in here about pigeons. Like, pigeons in the wild, of course, implies that they're pigeon racing or messenger pigeons or pet pigeon. Yeah, just hanging out. And then for some reason fell out of fashion. This is a very good point. You don't think that we spend enough time in the lower city with other characters to notice pigeons. Yes. I think that's a very good point. I think it would be really interesting to see pigeons woven into George's story. Like, if they were written in the chronological order rather than this publication order, I do think we would have seen pigeons in some way, shape, or form, or the spinners in some way, shape, or form in George's realm. Whether it be that's one of the ways. Yeah, I just think it would be connected somehow. But I think that's a really good point. Also with the pigeons, why didn't the Coopers not continue to have the powers in the Beckett's books? Or the ghost eyes or something like that. I expected something about ears, or the nose, because they talk about how George's nose is too big. I did something that would have more of that direct lineage. Speaking of the immortals, you would like a beastie. Oh, of the different monsters and animals. Yes. I need a National Geographic style, or just those big, beautiful illustrated books of all of them, or a Pokédex. I would not be against a Pokédex of all of the immortals and monsters. The Coopers still have the site. They do still have the site, and I do like how it shows up a little differently for everyone. I think that's a very important one. Again, yes. Pigeons used to be kept for food as well. There we go. That'd be interesting. I want to know more about the food in Tortall. There are certain things. I think Becca's books go into the food the most, if I'm remembering correctly. Especially the drinks. She has a particular drink that she likes. But I would love to know more about the different foods, because I think that really strengthens culture too. I chose language to talk about for this because I really thought like language and culture for Tamora Pierce go really well together. But another way to do that is food, because I think it would be cool. I don't know if anyone else has seen, there's a woman on TikTok who is doing a very similar thing that I am, but with the Redwall series. And she does a lot of cooking and making food that's found in the Redwall series. And I thought about trying to do that with Tamora Pierce's series. And there are a couple of them, but I think they're more in like Becca's books and a little bit on. So if you do come across like something that you think would be a fun thing to make, let's do it. I would love to. And not pigeons. You think Becca has a stronger site than Allie and George? I agree. I think so too. Is the site along the same vein as wild magic? I think so too. I think that's how they described it. It's just a different type of magic that is more rare than the generalized gift, and but it's not as rare as wild magic. But not the connection to the dead. Yes, that was the cool part for me. It was just it was very curious to have that sort of connection, because it wasn't necessarily with the animals, but I do think part of it was. It's just very cohesive. And I love the name Slapper. Like, Slapper for a pigeon? Perfect. Fantastic beasts and where to find them, but Tammy style. That would be great. I volunteer myself to go around and document them. Bread riots and the mold that it caused in Becca. Yes. Those bread riots, I can't wait to reread that section with everyone, particularly in our current world. I think it's going to add a whole new layer, and so I'm really looking forward to trying to work through the bread riots in particular with everyone. The drinks also imply a different level of sanitation of water in Alana's time versus Becca's time. Yeah, they do. And I wonder I wonder if we can see that on the map. Are there like... ish. I'm going to come back to that. I'm doing some more deep dives into that. Because there are so many changes that I'm sure has happened, but the water sanitation, necessary. Necessary. You're cooking for your friends from the Witcher cookbook for a fortnight? That's so cool! I bet the Witcher cookbook is very good. Or at least they'll have like a couple of really awesome recipes and the other ones probably way too complicated to be worth it. But that's awesome. That's such a great idea. The Trickster books go into food a good bit too. That is right. They do. They do go into food. Especially when Allie is part of them. And then we do get some food in the Circle of Magic series too, because we have some food magic. And then, what is her name? I can see it, but I can't say it out of the tip of my tongue. In Numaire's books. And we see her again. It's not Clarice. I want to call her Clarice. It's not Clarice, though. But she likes making things pretty. And I think she has, for Emperor Mage, there is a large discussion about all of the great food that the rats got to eat. Drinking tea with a sugar cube between the one... Yes! Okay, so drinking tea with a sugar cube between one's teeth, like in Cold Fire, would be interesting to try. Yes. Yes. All right, that's going on the list. That's going on the list. It needs to happen. Let's see. You would want something like this where it looks like multiple people have, over many generations, have worked on it. Maybe with the stuff scratched out and fixed as they got more. Ooh, I love that idea. For a book, just like something added over and over. The Spies Guide, the Tortallian Spies Guide, is a little bit like that style. But I really like it for the idea of, like, the Immortals. That'd be incredible. Like it was mentioned, we don't really spend time in the lower city. What time we do get to spend there is mostly exclusively at the Dancing Dove or Mrs. Cooper's. Yes. That would be fun to explore more. I think that would be, there are so many different places there. I would love to know later on, like, I want to see it in Lalassa's store. Yeah, so many other options. You would love to do food from the Tortall universe. Pigeon is delicious, FYI, and you would happily take one for the team and test those recipes. All right, that sounds good. I'm not opposed. I've eaten some weird things in my life. I will try anything at least twice, because the first time is always a little... It's new, so you got to do it again. But as for Redwall, did you know that the food is described in such amazing sensory detail because they were written for blind children? You've always loved that fact. I did not know that. That's awesome. That's such a cool thing to know about Redwall. I really enjoyed Redwall when I was younger. That's a very cool fact. So let's see. Tortall is very multicultural. You feel like they would use actual seasoning. I agree. Especially in Chorus. I think they would have access to a lot of options. We can't always trust people to take those options when it comes to seasoning, but I have faith in at least some of them. I don't know. Raoul kind of seems like he does not like... I don't know. There are certain characters I'm like, I don't know if you would eat a bunch of spicy food. But I could be wrong. Compare that to Alana ordering a drink at the Dancing Dove. Yes! I love the fact that we have Dancing Dove scenes here. I would love... I've really, really, really been thinking about us doing a live where I play The Sims and I build a Dancing Dove. Because if you don't know, this is a special interest, but also The Sims are a special interest, and I have it's 26,000 hours on Sims 4, and so I would love to combine those special interests. And I've really been thinking about making a Dancing Dove, and then making it older, because we have a brand new and not. So, love the Dancing Dove. There's a bit in the Spies Guide that talks about the head chef in the castle. Yes! It's been a long time since I've read the Spies Guide. We'll probably bookend series with that. But I need to go back and look at that again. Because the head chef in the castle, that'd be... What a job. What a job. Varys, yes, not Clarice. I was... Varys. In my head. Thank you for picking up what I was putting down. You tried that as a kid. That's so great. Oh, more message. I love how into this everyone is tonight. Love this. You agree. Raul does not like spicy food. And you bet his men tease him mercilessly. I bet so too. Buri especially. Because you know she can handle spice. Craves it. Needs it. And pepper might be a little much for him. You feel like Tortall is similar to Britain and the spices, all the spices, but no flavor. That is the concern, right? That is the concern. I have been working on a map video for a really long time, and one of the pieces that I first was looking at was the fact that I really liked how these maps don't look exactly like the UK, like some fantasy maps do. Then I found several interviews where Tamora Pierce talks about how the Tortall map is absolutely inspired by the European map. So that fun point about it kind of just went out the way. So that's another not as fun fact, but it's part of the lore. So I think the like Britain vibe is very, very valid. You would love a dancing dove in The Sims. Fantastic. Because I really think it's going to happen. I really would like it to happen. You should combine your hyperfixation with book club. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm trying to in as many ways as possible. Everyone is getting a Pokemon team. Perfect. Everyone needs a Pokemon team. That's fantastic. I do Pokemon Go. Love it. I'm not on there every day, but I used to be. I love it. I'm the yellow team. Spark. Love it. Let's see. Do you think that post-Becca, they have a baker's dozen? That post-Becca, they have a baker's dozen. Post-Becca for... Did I miss something? I might have. Oh, I get it. That was cute. That was funny. Dun, dun, dun. You were thinking about how John's granddad united Tortall, and it's giving colonialism. Yes! Thank you for bringing this up. Oh, you're also Team Instinct. Yes, perfect. I think that's what... Britain's not on the European continent, though. The Battle Islands, though? Yes, I think that's where that directly is from. It's not a part of the continent, but I was really hoping she, like, outlined a coffee stain or something to come up with Tortall. But you were thinking about John's granddad uniting Tortall and the colonialism of it all. That was one of my points, is this, like, question of, this always my question, where is the power? And I think power, as we've seen, is rooted in Chorus. It's rooted in that royal family. And even as we eventually venture out all over, it still matters what's happening in Chorus. And that story there is fascinating to me. I want to know more about colonialism in Tortall. Let's see. Oh, with the bread riots. I got you. The whole reason the baker's dozen is because the papers. Yes, I got you. I'm there, Reese. The peacemaker. As a kid, you were like, he's a good man, but oh no. Right. What does a peacemaker mean? What kinds of contracts are in place? We know marriage is a huge part of these contracts and this peace. We see that with Jonathan's story. But it's also not like a make or break. It's a fascinating chess game. Out until the crown said a dozen buns must weigh X, and they tossed in the extra bun to make the weight. I bet it is where the baker's dozen comes from. I think it's perfect. I think that's perfect. Let's see. I'm catching up on all these comments. I'm loving it all. Eating the pigeons would explain why they aren't mentioned in Alana's time, especially if there are more food shortages in later reigns. That's another very good point. Very good point. See, you think Royal could maybe handle some spice, but Gary, oh yeah, Gary can't, no. Absolutely not. You will admit some of your opinion of Royal is somewhat influenced by him marrying Buri. Yes. Because Sarin gave Afghan vibes. I think, I'm right there with you. I think it was something he had to learn. I think liking spice is something he had to learn. And Buri is the one to teach him. You always got Persia Iran, but yes, your point about where he stands, it doesn't make it much funnier if she keeps trying to get him to like her ancestral foods. I think it's perfect. And his love of Bazir food. Oh, I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. He does love Bazir food. So I take it all back. Raoul, I'm sorry. I was Gary, though. We can focus this all on Gary. And I don't think Jonathan would necessarily like it, but he would eat it all because he's a dutiful crown, if that's all he has. Like, John becomes the Bazir's religious figurehead after, what, just a couple of training sessions? And he gets a little testy about it, too. And it's not just him becoming the figurehead of this religion. He's the voice of the tribes. He talks to all of them every day. It, like, projects his self into everyone. Sus. I think it's a really, really important thing. I can't wait to dig into that a lot more when we get to Alana's books. Because it's icky, in my opinion. It's also of an era, and I don't think a lot of authors today would still treat it as delicately. It still feels icky. There's a both and happening. There's always a both and. You like the Malcolm X definition of peace, not the absence of violence, but the positive presence of justice. Yes, absolutely. I think justice is a huge theme in Tamora Pierce's works. And so I'd be curious how you think those two kind of interplay. But does that expand to Tortall after the riots? And you always thought Cyrano was based on Australia. Interesting. Yeah, the white fantasy of recollection. Oh, for conciliation. There we go. Saren, the solution is for you to be at the center of your most sacred practice. Yes! I am the center of the sacred practice. I am the sacred practice. John in the Desert's not good. I don't like our good King Jonathan in the desert. I don't think the heat agrees with him. I think he gets sand and dirt in places he does not want sand and dirt. He turns into not as fun of a person when he's not in chorus. And so I just, woof. Not my thing. Not my thing. Jonathan is such a man sometimes. Love for Bazir food. They bring up how much yogurt Allie has to eat when she first goes to the Copper Isles. Yes, yes. And water doesn't help with the spice, but makes it worse. You learned that as a hard way as a kid, yes. I would love to make some Copper Isles food. I do think that would be one of the first places I jumped in. Actually, I think one of my first places would be trying to do Becca's drink that she talks about getting a lot. Maybe we can plan on trying that for when we start with Becca. I'm an awful cook, so this is all just me doing it for the bit, because it might not be edible, but I can kind of follow directions, so we'll see. We'll see what I come up with, but I think the food would be a fun one. The food and drinks. You'd like to know more about that? John becoming the voice is icky, but you do think it's the best way to integrate the Bazir peacefully. I think that was that both and that they treated it. I think that's a really good point to bring up. In John's defense, just a little. I see you. I love it. Please, please. I think there needs to be more. You don't think it was his idea originally? He's 50%. Yeah. Oh, this was not his idea originally. Not at all. The previous voice selected him. It was the way to unite everybody. I think it tied up all of the ends it needed to. It was a great literary device that she used, but in today's, and back then too, like that was groundbreaking. But in today's eyes, it's I don't think she would have necessarily written it the same, which is fine. Man of the Year TikTok for John. Yeah, maybe I need to. So I some of these things I didn't know how strongly I felt about them until I'm voicing them out loud or making a TikTok about them, and I realize I've made my third TikTok about the proposal with John, and I'm like, you have some feelings about this, don't you? So thank you to everyone who is helping me work through my Tortall feelings. So I appreciate it. Oh, yes, the Raspberry Twizzly. That is the exact drink I would love to make from Becca's books. I loved that she was just like, actually, I'm going to have this like Shirley Temple. A spruce beer. That might have been one. Twizzle kind of reminds you of a British drink called squash. Oh, I didn't have squash when I've been over there. I'll have to look that up. Interesting. I've always wondered what Twizzly is like. I've always envisioned that drink as like a Shirley Temple style drink. If she's going in there and being like, I want grenadine, but it's a raspberry, and it's like kind of a cider, but not alcoholic. Maybe there's a little fizzy. I don't know. The narrative definitely pushed that on John. He quite literally did not want to, so he's allowed to. I'm sure there's rest from. I agree with that too. Things are both. You're always going to hear both and from me. So many of I think these books are both and. I think the point. I don't think Tamora Pierce was necessarily trying to make this point, but for me, the point that I get from almost all of her books and all of her characters is this idea of both and. You can be two things at the same time, even if they feel diametrically opposed to each other. You can be a knight and a woman. You can be a good king and forced into these situations where you don't feel like you're making the right decisions. I think there's both and. There's always both and that happens. You love how marrying the prince was not the answer, even though he's good. He's a good man and she loved him. I agree. He wasn't the answer. A lot of people in the comments have talked about how that broke their heart when they were younger. And I remember that. I feel like I remember that moment of reading it and being like, what do you mean? She's not going to end up with the prince. That's how all of the other stories go. That's how this story is supposed to go. She won't be happy. How could she? She's not going to be the most quote-unquote powerful in the land. And the more times I've reread it, I think by the second or third reread, I was like, yeah, shut him down. But at the start, it was different. It was different because I think this is the idea that Tamora Pierce has. And I think we talked about lying earlier. I think it's one of those moments where the lying happens to our characters too, not just one-on-one, but really from society as a whole. Of like, you are lied to when you're told you are only allowed to be this. Or in that moment for the proposal and my feelings with it, I felt like I had either been lied to by all of the other stories that I had read about how life was supposed to go, or how a good story or good fairy tale or fantasy was supposed to go, and having that subverted, I love. Because my questions are always, where's the power, and then how do I subvert it? Those are my two favorite questions to ask. Yes, 90s feminism! Oh my gosh, I know. Last week I went on a little... Was it last week or the week before? I went on a little rant about how I felt like Tamora Pierce really reflects, maybe a little bit earlier than the cultural norm, but I feel like the issues and her protagonists and the stories that are happening really do reflect the time period and the feminism that was really prevalent at the time. And I do think her books are a couple of years ahead of that wave of feminism, but they really do reflect. They are reflective of that thinking, and we see it evolve, and that's what makes me so curious what kind of book she would be writing now. I think we're on a side quest with Numair. I think the Numair books really came about in a period where it was like feminism very much is also what about men? And like, how do we help our boys? How do we refocus the quote unquote problem that feminists are talking about to one where men are central people, central forces for hopefully good. And so there's a lot of discord. This is like my love. All of my special interests combining. There's a lot of discourse on whether or not that's very helpful, hurtful, but I think even Numera's book is a reflection of the conversations that are happening in these very feminist spaces at the time. And so it would be interesting to see how that would play out now. Getting off my little soapbox for a second, coming back to these comments. Catching up Discord, and we're bouncing back and forth between Discord and the phone. So let's see. Capsaicin is oil soluble. Water does nothing. We need milk. We need yogurt. We need something that'll coat it. Yes, if we have for our spicy food. You like Jon for the purposes that he's a good man at his core and he's a good king, but he stays very human throughout and isn't always good. And he makes a mess of things. He is mature and grows a lot. You think by the time Kel comes into play and he understands the balance required to keep peace and make some of the changes necessary to better the world, the whole of Tortall, and not just for one group of people. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think that it's that both and there of like he's had to find this balance between being a young idealistic prince who feels like he can just storm out on his own because he knows Alana's going to follow him. And just, I'll go take care of the problem on my own, to a very much more balanced. We need to bring more people. We need to have more thought. I understand a lot of his decisions. They aren't necessarily ones that I would have made, but I think that his character really plays a role of that voice of society in particular instances. And so I completely agree with your take. Jon is a good man and a good king at his core, and circumstances sometimes suck, and you have to make decisions that aren't going to appease everyone. Like, has alcohol but only keeps the water drinkable because bacteria dies drink. Yes. Squash is considered a kid's drink. I love that. Okay, that makes sense. Did you have Ribena? That's the most well-known squash. I think I did. Now that you're saying that, I think I did have that when I was over there. Hopefully I'll be over there a lot more soon, as in next year, and I can try all of those in the UK. Bouncing back and forth. So, yes, over in the Discord, there's lots of agreement around that Jon take, which I agree, that was a good take on Jon. He's very human, makes human mistakes, but he stays true at the core of being a good person above all else, even when he has to make hard choices. And I agree, he does such a good... Tamora Pierce does an incredible job of keeping her characters, their core values, consistent, even when that is to their detriment. So I would say that one of Jon's core characteristics is this idea of fairness. Not necessarily justice and not necessarily equality or equity, but the idea of fairness. And I think we see that from the very moment that we meet him with Alana, and the way that he conducts himself in that group of who gets to say when and how. And then I also think it shows up, like, we're talking about the proposal area. I think it also shows up in the idea of proposal. Like, he doesn't think it's fair that all of these things, there's this give and take. And this idea of fairness also, I think, shows up in that take again about him being king, and it matters for him to be fair for the whole empire rather than to make his one group happy. And so I think I love that about Tamora Pierce, is that she's like, this is who this person is, and it's not always going to be good for him. Oh, a touch too spicy. Yes. That is a massive influence on him to get him past that point, though. Yes. I want more about her. I want more about that. I just want more. Tons more. I want to be one of her hand ladies in waiting. I think that could be lots of fun. We'd have a great time. And you don't disagree at all? You don't think any of the characters get to where they are without those outside influences? It's another great point. Tamora Pierce does a really good job of making sure that, like, everybody is developing together and they all have such an impact and influence on each other. And we see that. They're in this together, And I would say we even see this all the way through even Kel's books. We're still seeing the dynamics that were put together in the first couple of chapters of Alana's books in the core group that we're talking about right now. We're seeing their dynamic and relationships play out years and years later. Absolutely love it. Catching up on comments. You love a strong tea. Feminism is about liberating everyone from gender depression, including men. Yes, absolutely. Completely agree. The history of feminism is so fascinating. And if anyone is ever interested, I literally used to teach this. And it was one of my favorite days because we would put a whole huge timeline up on the board, this massive like butcher block of paper all the way around the room, and then as a collective class like do timelines around feminist history, mostly focusing on the States because that's where I am. But we would add more global, and of course that's where my life ended up heading, was more in that global space. So if anyone is ever interested in like feminist history, let me know. I have a syllabus. And I also am really interested in making a video about it with Tamora Pierce's work. I think that they're so connected. I think there's just tons to be said about it. You still want a book about Persepolis and how it came to be? Me too. Can't spell. You met the Copper Isles. That's okay. I want Copper Isles. I want to know more about all of it. As soon as John became the voice, he changed drastically as a person for the better. I think so too. I think he had accountability. He had consequences for his actions. He was fully outside of himself. The idea of being a ruler was no longer an idea, but an action he had to perform all of the time. Like the perspective of 1,000 years. Yes. There was a part of me that really kind of later on in my later rereads thought about it as almost like an Avatar sense, but I don't think that actually lines up very well, but there's a component to it. You would sell your soul to learn more about Lark. Me too. Lark and Rosethorn. Didn't know how much I loved Rosethorn until we got her POV in Battle Magic, and then I almost couldn't handle it, so it was a good one. You like when John allows Cal's probation year to appease Weldon and the traditionalists give and take for progress. Yeah. He wasn't my favorite in that moment. I understood his choice. Totally understood his choice. I was like Alana, though, where I was like, fume out. I'm mad at you. I can follow orders and still be mad at you at the same time. Yeah, and also John not allowing Callie to get her shield. That's another huge one, too. I understand that from his perspective, too, to a point, but no thanks. Sign you up for History of Feminism. You would love this. You're a sucker for a syllabus. I got it. I got you. Yes. We can sprinkle in Tamora Pierce throughout. Because when I really do think about it, there are direct examples for almost every single piece that line up fairly well, especially when you actually get to her era. There's direct examples that line up specifically there. I think there's also tons. There's Buffy studies. Why can't there be Tamora Pierce studies? You think John hated that but knew he would have to have her a political marriage for the peace of the kingdom? I agree with that, but I also think he could have had a political marriage and a lady knight in the family. He did try to marry a knight. He did try to change the knight. So I think there is a part of me that questions whether Callie would have actually even have been allowed, if she did get the shield, been allowed to do anything. Which would have been awful. Love Lark and Rosethorn. Rare on YA to get an open partnership of a lesbian and a bi woman. Yes! To have it canon and beautiful, and I almost broke when Rosethorn thought she was seeing the end of it, and she was like, oh, I need to think of Lark. If I'm not going to make it to the other side of this door, I want my last thought to be of Lark. Oh my gosh. It's like, Allie and Nawat, you better watch out. The best romance in this whole everything right on your heels. I need to finish Circle of Magic before I can say for certain. But as of right now, the Lark Rose Thorn relationship might be my favorite. Might be. We're close. Let's see. You do think John is a good man and king, but deeply relate to Cal going, he's handsome, I don't like it. Yes. Yes. I completely agree with you on that. You felt a way about a doctor you worked with. Never vibed with him because he was handsome man in authority, in a position definitely of power, and something about it just put your hackles up. Gotten better with age, but agree with Cal. You're not going to be taken in by an easy smile. I love that. That's an important point to make about him. Because I agree, and as soon as I do remember that, of her thinking about it, I really remember her talking about, like, her neck was sweating because he was handsome and that. Like, I understand. And charming. It's a lesson I think I hopefully have learned at this point, but I can't say. I can say if a king came up to me now looking very handsome, there would be a major internal dialogue happening about how I would have to deal with that. Rosethorn in general, yes, a woman gets to be both sharp and lovable. Yes, she does. She gets to be sharp, she gets to be lovable, she gets to be brilliant, she also gets to be scary. I love that everyone is just a little bit afraid of Rosethorn. And she knows it too, and cultivates that image. And she has so many other people going to bat for her that are just like, oh no, don't piss her off. Don't do it. But she's also wonderful. So I relate. I love it. Tammy has a fantastic way of showing how character strengths are built in the foundation of community. Yes. I'm going to read it again because it was so good. Tammy has a fantastic way of showing how character strengths are built on the foundation of community. Every single antagonist is ultimately brought down by individualism of some nature. In this essay, you will... Yes, I completely agree. There's always, I think, greed is one of those. Oh, I just had a great... What are the 7 deadly sins of Tamora Pierce's universes? I'm going to have to think a lot on that. But the idea of individualism versus community, found family has always been a huge piece for her. Not just found, but foraged. Family has always been huge. The idea of protector of the small is another huge one. I love the way that you phrase that. About character strengths are built in the foundation of community and how all of these antagonists are brought down by individualism in some nature. John is in your brain as well. John's face is claimed by Justin Trudeau. That's a funny one. I like that. I've been working on Who I See. I've been working on a video for Who I See when we're reading the Winding Circle. Those books, I almost have it done. So it'll be soon. Where the protagonists are always buoyed by their communities. Yes! They're brought in. It's such a point. Like, in Alana's book, we were talking about it earlier, one of the biggest plot points for her at a certain moment is, will my friends reject me? And there's a whole chapter dedicated to telling them and their reactions, and I just love it. I love how community pulls through. I love how Alana adds to community. I love how they all end up adding to community in different ways and what they value and need in their community. I was really thinking then about Alana and Theat and Bury, and her just being like, oh, you would fit right in. Let me just reel you right on in. Dun, dun. It was mentioned in the TikTok chat that he changes after the perspective of the voices, that and how he is in Kel's books reminds you of a quote from The Crown. You don't have it on hand, but it's something like, "We, the Crown Royals, are not allowed opinions. People tell us what to think." Yes. Yes. I think the reality of being the king hits John after we see him, after we really know him in Alana's books, and we see the consequences of that in Kel's books. Greed and pride are two big ones throughout the whole series. Yes, for those like 7 Deadly Sin ones. Oh, yes, absolutely. You're so excited you're going to be reading the Immortals Quartet for the first time. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you. I don't want to hype them up too much, but the third one is perhaps my favorite book that Tamora Pierce has ever written. And I'm so delighted for you. I'm so delighted for you. You love Rose Thorne standing up for Evie, telling the other dedicates that the kids can have PTSD too. Yes! So tricky. So So I was diagnosed with CPTSD very long time ago, and I've worked very, 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 very hard. And I'm at a point now where certain people, I could be classified as post-traumatic growth, and it's something I'm very, very proud of. But it's a journey to get from here to there. And kids are allowed to have it too. I love how they all kind of go to bat for each other, except for right now in these first 15 pages of Will with the Empress. I'm so mad. I'm so mad about it still. They just want to go home. I want to go home. Calming myself down. I feel like that one sound that's just like, I'm getting worked up. I'm an adult. I'm fine. that's how I feel right now about these 15 pages. I'm fine. Oh, your fiance is currently on her first read through too. That's so exciting. That's so delightful. So delightful. I always wonder if I just love these books because of when I read them, or if they really genuinely are phenomenal books. This jury's still out. Greed and pride are two of the yes. For that one, sadly different sins. You love how Kel inspires young girls during the jousting on progress. Me too! Me too. And I want to see the ripple effects. I want to see how that works. Willful ignorance. Oh, for the 7 deadly sins. It's such a good one. Such a good one. Oh, you're so excited. Dane is such a good one. CPTSD is the life of an Indigenous person. Yep. It's just part of it. All the stats. Oh, we all hope your fiance enjoys. Your fiance is only calling you mayor by Storkman. I think that's appropriate. I think that's what Cloud would approve. Very approved. I love the Storkman. Okay. I'm going to read these throw your last bit of comments in. I have, my battery is running out because I'm using my fun, fancy microphone. And so I don't have too much longer on my battery. So please throw in your last little thoughts about culture, languages in the chats. And then I'm going to be hopping over to the Discord in a little bit. And I might try the voice chat function feature. Not sure. But just so we're all on the same page. So I'm going to catch up with these chats. This has been phenomenal. I've been having such a great time. Dun, dun. Oh, there's some great discussion in the Discord. So if you're not a part of the Discord, please come join. If you enjoy Tamora Pierce, we have a great time over there. I'm working on the whole... Typing is the hardest activity for me right now. I get very frustrated with it. And so I'm trying. We're going to keep trying. You're thinking, it was mentioned, we did that one. Fan casts. Oh, that's such a, keep trying. You're thinking, it was mentioned, we did that one. Fan casts. Oh, that's such a good idea. I want to do a live that's dedicated just to fan casts. And I want to do some videos too. Fan casting. And I'm really worried to do it because Tamora Pierce has explicitly said that all fan casting so far has been wrong. And she doesn't necessarily enjoy fan casting because they're all just very wrong. So It's gonna be a tricky one, but I'm still down to do it. You're thinking one for the homunculi. Yes, as villains from Tamora Pierce's books. Roger's Wrath. That's a good one. I don't know if Roger's Wrath. You refused to be wrong about Trudeau's John. You were shocked that Barry married Raoul. I thought she was gay too. Me too. That's why I think the three of us would really make a great throuple. Get it all worked out. Roger is wrath. His sin more is greed. Always got Bipan vibes from her. Yeah, me too. Orzon is greed seemed a little bit more aligned. I thought he might do well with vanity too. He might be an interesting one for vanity or envy. That's another good idea. This is a good one. I'm gonna plug this. We're gonna continue the 7 deadly sins of Tamora Pierce, both suggesting your deadly sins of the universe and what characters would be what sins. And I'm going to use this opportunity. I know it's not totally connected, but if you're not following D in the Omegaverse, please do. A great series right now about who in the Bible would be an alpha, beta, or omega. So I highly recommend. Feels almost like a lavender marriage. She's a lesbian, wants to be matchmaking mothers to leave him alone. Don't think it came off of that way in the books, but it's headcanon. I'll agree with that. It did. There was a little bit of both and. Same. You see the lady from the Lady Royal from Allie's books as Wrath, maybe. Ooh, that's a good idea. Yes. Okay. So we're going to continue that conversation on the Discord. Please join. And I'm going to be finishing up these in here. I love all these comments. I'm so happy that we're doing this. Both is good. I'll take it all. Your fiance. Yes, we did that one. Tall. So that tracks. Yes. She said in an afterward that Numera was inspired by Jeff Goldblum. Yes. She's done a couple of interviews where she talked about it too. She specifically talks about how his voice and like the way that he speaks is very much inspired by him. And of course, like his physicality, the tall, lanky, the nose, the way he moves through space, being like a stork man. I should do a video on that too. But that's definitely not how I see him in my head. So modern casting for him would be Gianmarco Sorenzi. I don't know that one. Incredible. Fabulous. We should definitely do casting, fan casting. All right. Hop on over to the Discord if you want to hang out. He's half Hoosier too, you know. Hoosier. Yes. I see the vision. My phone is about to die, so I need to hop off of this live. But I will be on the Discord. I'm going to be figuring out the voice chat situation, perhaps on the Discord. We'll see how it goes. This is my favorite part of the whole entire week. And so I'm so happy. Perhaps on the Discord. We'll see how it goes. This is my favorite part of the whole entire week. And so I'm so happy that you all are here with me with this next week. Will of the Empress. We're doing it. I'm literally right here. Like I said, 15. Yep. Page 15. Well, I haven't even gotten to Briar yet. And that's going to break my heart. Probably my soul a little bit too. And I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So, I'll make some more notes videos because those were kind of fun. So I appreciate everyone so much for being here for this live. We're going to do it again next week. I'm probably going to try to drop another live in between now and next week. And so stay tuned for some of that. And I will see you all on the Discord soon. I hope you have a wonderful week, all.